The question, how did you get into writing poetry? Other answers here have good tips for how to get started writing poems if what you want to do is get some words down in a way that expresses your feelings and thoughts. There are a lot of exercises that teachers use with inexperienced poets to just get them started. These are 3 of my favorites. 1. Write a series of lines that begin with the phrase "I remember." Don't try to connect the lines, and write them as fast and for as long as you can. Then take out all the lines that seem dull or clunky. 2. Like above, write a series of 2-line verses using "once I was, now I am" as a prompt. Same idea, write fast and a lot, then comb out whatever you don't like. 3. Get 100 index cards and write 1 word on each card. Use about 50 nouns, about 25 verbs, and about 25 adjectives and adverbs. Don't worry about pronouns, prepositions, or articles, you can just stick these in. Try to use a mix of common words, like house and run, and uncommon words, like cataclysm and curate. Then shuffle your cards and deal out 10 or so to yourself, using any verb form you want and adding in prepositions, articles, and pronouns as need be. Make sure to use all 10 words, and don't add any new nouns, verbs, adverbs, or adjectives. See what you get. Shuffle and repeat. These kinds of exercises can get you started in a way that prevents your poems from just being sentences chopped up into lines, but they don't substitute for the real answer to your question, which is that if you want to write poetry, you have to read poetry. Just the same way if you want to make music, you have to learn music. Buy a good anthology of poetry and start reading. When you find a poem that speaks to you, write a poem in response, imitating it, or stealing from it, or answering it. There is this saying a poet friend of mine uses about naive poetry: a poem that has never met another poem. Anyone who aspires to write good poetry must recognize that she or he is working within an ancient tradition, in the same way that musicians, dancers, and painters are. You have to know the tradition, and learn the skills that attend it, in order to write poetry in a way that a poet would take seriously. I'm not against naive and inexperienced poems. Why would anyone try to have less poetry in the world? But I am against the idea that anyone who sits down with a pen and piece of paper is a poet, any more than anyone who sits down at a piano and starts banging at the keys is making music. It is a really hard art and craft to learn. I have spent 40 years at it, and am still nowhere near where I want to be.